Assalamu alaikum guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video we're gonna do some arithmetic practice. It's mostly focused on like fractions, so yeah, this is the main focus. It's part of the quantitative section of the GAT or qudrat exam. So let's get started. Number one, we have, this is division, we're dividing. So we can simply just rewrite this for our own pleasure. 21 over 8 plus 3 over 4. Okay, so this is the same thing. What can we do? So first we have to get these terms alike. We have to get the denominators alike. So what we can do is multiply by 2. What you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom. So the top is going to be 2 and then 4 minus... It's going to be 4 and then negative 9. And then you do it to the top as well, which is going to just stay 21 over 8. And then you add it to 8, so because you have to multiply by 2. 3 times 2 is 6. All you have to do is add. It's 27. And then all you have to do is simply go back to the original and complete your task. So this is what you have to do now. But we know in order to divide, all we have to do is multiply by the reciprocal of this side. So it's the same thing as saying this. And an easy way to remember how to do this is, how I remember it is like kind of a song, I guess. It's like, if you want to divide, look in the right side, flip the reciprocal, then you multiply. Now, all we have to do is simply multiply, but before we get into it, we can kind of just, I guess, cross it out. So we know basically that this is basically a 1 and this is basically 2, because 2 4s make it. And then this is just going to be negative 1, and then this is going to be 3, because 9 goes into 27 3 times. This is just going to stay as negative 1. Now we can multiply across way easier. So what's 1 times 3? 1 times 3 is 3. And then what is negative 1 times 2? Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Now our final answer is going to be negative 2 over 3. Okay, what we have here seems to be a complex problem, but it's actually not as complex when you break it apart. So, well, let's first grab it bit by bit. Let's take this. So 1 plus 1 over 4, we can just put it over 1, and then we multiply, so we have like denominators. What we do to the top, we do to the bottom, what we do to the bottom, we do to the top. So now this is just easier to add across, and then you have 5 over 4 for this one. So now we can cross out this one. What we have now is 1, we have 1 over here, so we can go back and put this all over 1. So what will we do? What we simply have to do now is just multiply by the reciprocal. We know when we're multiplying, we just multiply across, so it's still going to be 4 over 5. Now we got rid of this one. So now we have to add the 1. So what we can do is say plus 1. And then what we're going to do, we have to make them alike, the denominator, so we're going to multiply 5 by the top and the bottom. So it's going to be 4 over 5 plus 5 over 5, which is simply 9 over 5. But we're not done yet. We still have this 1, and what we're going to do is 1 divided by 9 over 5, which is simply 1 times 5 over 9, which is simply 5 over 9, which is our final answer. Now let's move on to question number 3. So question number 3 is negative 3 divided by 7 divided by 3 divided by 7. So how do we approach this type of question? Well, First, we know that this is division, and we can just multiply by the reciprocal. So what we can do is this. We're multiplying, or this is a multiplication sign, and then we have 7 over 3, because we know if we want to divide, we have to look at the right side, or in this case, the denominator, flip the reciprocal, then we can multiply. So what we can do, we can just cross this out. This is going to be 1. Cross this out. This is going to be -1. And -1 times 1 is just simply -1. Be simply easy as that. And we solved this problem within a heartbeat. And we saved so much time. Now let's move on to question number 4. Question number 4 says 10 divided by 15 multiplied by 30 minus 10 divided by 6 multiplied by 30. Now this may seem a little complex, but it's actually very easy once you got down the crossings down. So we can put it over 1 if you want, or you don't need to. You're just going to look at the 15 and you're going to look at the 30. How many times does 15 go into 30? Twice. So we can write it as 1 and 2. So it's going to be 15 times 2, which is simply 20. And then what's the second one? How many times does 6 go into 30? 5, because we know that 5 times 6 is 30. So we know that this is 5, and then we know that we're just simply going to multiply 10 times 5 now, which is 50. And then we have to bring this down. What is 20 minus 50? It is -30, which is our final answer. Now let's move on to question number 5. This is our final question. I'm glad you guys made it through. Now push through and focus for the final question. Okay, so we have 2 minus 1 over 4 plus 1 minus 1 over 2 plus 3 minus 9 over 4. So how can we approach this? First, let's take the whole numbers. Let's take the whole numbers. So 2 plus 1 plus 3, which is simply 6. Okay, so we got down the whole numbers. Now let's approach the fractions. The fractions are simply, you can see here that there's a negative and there's a negative. There's a negative, so all you're going to do is subtract. Minus 1 over 2 minus 9 over 4. So how would you approach this? Well, first of all, we can see that these are both 4s. So the easiest thing to do is get this to be a 4 as well. So we multiply by 2, which is going to be -1 over 4 minus 2 over 4 minus 9 over 4. Now we can simply subtract across. And then -1 minus 2 is -3 minus 9 is -12. And then how many times is 4 going to 12? 3 times. So and we're left with a negative, so our final answer is -3. But wait, you cannot forget about the 6. So all we have to do now is 6 minus 3, which is simply 3, and 3 becomes our final answer. And this does conclude today's video. I hope you guys learned something new and learned some tips and tricks about the fractions, how to approach them in an arithmetic way. Please don't hesitate to email me, wizworksyt@gmail.com, or comment down any questions or concerns that you have. This is Wizworks. See you in the next video.